Hello and welcome, everyone. This is your GM in the Great Barrier, and we are back for a special episode. Our Season 1 retrospective, our Q&A session. I, of course, am your GM in the Great Barrier, broadcasting from the center of your entertainment universe. And today, we are joined by most of our usual crew. Of course, our captain, one Colonel Lillian Sharp, or rather their player, Panda. Dr. Lambeth, as played by Ben. Playing the dual roles of Marcus Horn and Saral, we have Felix. And of course, in the role of Lieutenant Eula Shira, the armory officer and Andorian military attaché, we have Craig. There's a possibility we will be joined by our engineer here in just a bit, so we'll just see where that goes, but questions for them will be held. We are regrettably not joined by our science officer, as played by the incomparable Drone. Thankfully, we've just been updated. They have not been eaten by the Moopsie, but they are holding it off for now, so we hope that Drone recovers, retains all their bones. We all wish you well, Drone. With that, I should of course acknowledge our special guest interviewer, one Joe of the OverlandGamer podcast and of Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword, Mr. Azek Korg. So welcome in, Joe.
Greetings.
Before we get going here, I do want to offer one quick little shout out for the channel. This wasn't my first day back on streaming. I had the opportunity to actually catch the Architects of Fate on their Cookie Trek show, which was a lot of fun, and we spent Friday evening putting together a Star Trek script. So I'm just going to say check them out on Twitch. I think they also have material on YouTube. It's a lot of fun.
All right, welcome to a great Saturday, possibly Sunday if you're tuning into us from around the world. It's been a cold one here in the Midwest. We hope that everybody is staying warm wherever you are. I want to say a big thank you to our GM in the Great Barrier for allowing us to come together and do this little Q&A session and inviting me back to be a host of it. First and foremost, I need to get some bookkeeping out of the way. I want to make sure that we're not going to spoil anything about the new Star Trek series. So for our interviewees, how far ahead are you on Star Trek? Are you all caught up, or what's the last Trek stuff you have seen?
Well, I've watched all of Lower Decks, but only watched season 1 of Picard and season 1 of Discovery, and only watched a few episodes of Strange New Worlds.
I've practically caught up with everything, though I haven't watched Discovery. I just read the Spark Notes of it because it isn't my thing in terms of tone and other such things.
I'm either caught up or not bothered by spoilers, so hit me.
I haven't watched like some of the latest Star Trek stuff in a little while, but I think season 3, I got halfway through season 4 of Discovery, I think, and season 2 of Picard, season 3 of Lower Decks, I think.
Yeah, I don't care too much about spoilers, so
yeah, I
ahead.
probably picked up spoilers.
That was going to be my next question, so glad you guys you brought that up. So, first, I'm curious, what out of all the Star Trek movies that are out there, what would be your favorite soundtrack? Which movie has the best soundtrack?
First Contact.
Yeah, I gotta agree. First Contact is great. Hearing it reused in the Lower Decks episodes where they went to Bozeman, Montana, that's so nice.
Hearing it used at the end theme mixed together with the title theme for Picard Season 3 was just amazing. Like it was like that theme, and that end theme in itself was like almost definitive Star Trek for me.
I haven't
I'm always
watched
on the
movies in
fence
a while,
because
and so I can't
yeah,
remember the themes.
I'm always on the fence because like Wrath of Khan is definitely up there as the top for me, but then after that it's like okay, what themes, what
Well, I'm seeing in the chat our science officer was able to transfer something. Drone mentions Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, and First Contact is a three-way tie, which I would tend to agree in some fashion. I think that if there was one soundtrack I had to bring into the mix here, I generally think that Michael Giacchino's Kelvin timeline Trek soundtrack, I genuinely think he does a really good job capturing the environment or the spirit of that. And that, like, even the least of those, which by far for me Into Darkness is, the soundtrack is just brilliant, and I have no notes. If I were to celebrate any one of them in particular, I would give it to Beyond, though. It's the things like the sweeping moments of arriving at Yorktown Station, the terrible struggle against the swarm, and just throughout that movie, it was a wonderful experience.
definitely some good selections there. So in as we have been brought together for Star Trek Adventures Aegis or Aegis, depending on how you choose to pronounce it there. What has been kind of give me an elevator pitch as to what happened this season. I know it's been a whole year since you guys have met to play the games, so it might be a little rough, but kind of give us a little bit of a brief as to what happened through the course of this past season.
Our resident note taker is actually sick. Oh boy, Aegis on its more or less maiden voyage ended up in a political situation. Alpha Centauri trying to declare independence, due partially to a bit of Talarites trying to get some mercantile exploitation. Resentment from Alpha Centauri still encouraged them to seek independence. They got support by the Vulcans and being recognized as such. The debacle had resulted in a slap across the back of the hands to their current captain, who had to be reassigned, thus bringing in a Mako captain that was Colonel Sharp, now Captain Sharp, who took command of the Aegis, upon which they ended up getting caught a lot in espionage, political intrigue, as somebody or something was shaking up the Alpha Quadrant. First, it was the Tandarans, who just tried to lay claim to Terra Nova, which we settled that. Was between that and the triple episode.
The first half of the season, which we covered in the mid-season, we had, of course, Fallen Star, which covered the Alpha Centauri crisis. There was the Groundskeeper, our little trip to what turned out to be an alien probe, and just a lovely little facsimile of an English manor. After that, we had Terra Populusque Nova. That was our visit to Terra Nova and dealing with the Suliban and Tandarans. After that, it was Tall Ship, which led into our horror two-parter, Be Still Thy Gentle Shade.
Oh, right.
Then the Boom and Bust game, that was the one with the Nausicaans and the Tellarite Company. It was after that we had our mid-season Q&A, and we did a... that seems to have happened last year. After that, it started up with the Escalation arc, so it went from Escalation, Scum and Villainy, and Let Your Woes Become Your Deadliest Weapons, Earthbound, The Death Before Dishonor one-shot, Immersion, A Lion in the Night, the Starry Compass Saga, all 14 parts of it.
40.
It felt like it. Thankfully, it was only 1-4, and retroactively split it between the Starry Compass, the Marauders of the Distant Moon, and the Great Machine. And then finally we closed off with Cold Warriors just last month. I suppose if I were to borrow from the going off our last Q&A and my usual phrase of when last we left off, shit got real.
In the first three-parter, in which it was the sort of like in the background of the Vulcan schism, the whole initial quote-unquote lie by Vlos of the Andorians using chemosite or researching chemosite to make super weapons, turns out was actually real. And
only because they attacked us. Clearly, only because they attacked us. Vulcans would be it's a defensive weapon, and frankly, Vulcans are poo-poo. So there.
Yeah, and even right before that, like immediately before that, we had Saval die instead of Admiral Forrest, which already had us wondering what the hell is going on with the timeline. And Admiral Forrest wasn't even on Vulcan to begin with, was in fact at Earth. And just when we had everything kind of back where it was, Vulcan, instead of Vulcan being stopped from starting an intergalactic war, started an intergalactic war with the Andorians by raising and raiding Andoria. The galaxy around us got put in conflict, and Earth tried to step carefully around such a big conflict.
We were the galactic Switzerland.
Yeah. But every time that we try to tiptoe and do the rest of our work, we got caught up in their work too. And then Cold Warriors, we discovered that it was indeed the Romulans, except nobody remembers who the Romulans are. But
no one has ever met the Romulans.
Yeah, nobody's ever met or heard about the Romulans, and that the actual Romulans are being used as agents, but they are mind controlled and possibly enslaved or something. Like their biology certainly suggests that they've gone through hell before being used as agents. So
they died before we found out.
It's a much bigger Cold War out there than the actual timeline, original timeline.
To say nothing of a few other encounters, the Kzinti, who made it their first appearance and first contact with Earth.
Oh, that's fun.
There's also the even more dangerous threat. Hi, I'm Noth.
Yeah, there's Narth.
And the holodeck episode without the holodeck.
Oh yeah, wonderful. Rampant hallucinations. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Kzinti. Always have been. I'm glad they're in.
I mean, just wait until Soral figures out how to manifest itself. Then we'll talk about the threat.
No. No, you're a space god now. Nope.
Oh yeah. Soral left the crew for the next plane of existence. He stopped the war.
He did. Well done. Yeah.
Yep.
Who knew you could trust a Vulcan?
I
mean, more you can trust than Andorian, apparently.
This Andorian has been nothing but trustworthy.
As you can tell, Joe, the past season, the past year, I went ahead and counted. We actually had 10 episodes, effectively. Some of them much shorter than the others, or others much longer. But yeah, we went through a lot of story in order to get like a couple of mini arcs, a one-shot, and just a lot has happened to effectively take us up from... basically, if you were comparing it to the original Enterprise show, we fit that amount of content between the Kirshara crisis up through where the United or the drone ship crisis in Enterprise would have occurred.
Yeah, it really has been a long way getting from there to here.
Yes.
Long road getting from there to here. Yeah, definitely tell that. I've unfortunately not caught every episode, but I've definitely tuned in from time to time, and it always sounds like y'all are having quite the adventures. After playing Star Trek Adventures as long as you have, has Star Trek Adventures become your favorite RPG system, or are there other RPG systems that you prefer over Star Trek Adventures?
I will be quite honest. I've been playing this system quite a while with Zach, and for the longest time, for years, I just saw it as like voodoo and sorcery. I could not understand the system. It just kept bashing my head against it. I didn't understand it until I started playing, Aegis, and actually breaking down of like what's going on, how the mechanics work, and it kind of clicked. And I've actually really enjoyed it. I still feel it's a little crunchy here and there, for because like it's. I feel like it's a nice blend between crunchy and narrative. It's not too lax and where just simply make up as you go along, but it adds just enough to give it the sort of narrative blend that you would like, with a bit of mechanics in there, so that if people want to be fiddly about it, you can be fiddly about it.
Let's go in decreasing rank order on this one. So, I think Craig, Ben, and then Felix. Well, I guess Felix technically are moved up, but well, we're going off the number system we have. That's how we're playing it.
Craig is civilian. He can't. He's technically, it's just he's civilian rank. Technically, he's the bottom.
You mean Felix?
Felix, yeah. Sorry,
One of the two, yeah.
This will all be reflected in the evaluation.
that's fine. He doesn't think highly of me, anyways. It's my father-in-law.
I do quite enjoy the this system. It's good to play and is good for role play. There are bits where I still can't quite grasp even after years of playing, like what's it, the extended task stuff?
Yeah,
I
it gets a little weird.
I have no clue how to do that. So yeah, at least through this game, I have now learned how to do weapons and damage and stuff. So that's fun. But compared to other systems, honestly, I prefer the Genesis system, which is mostly used for what's it, Star Wars by Fantasy Flight. Which also gives a lot of good role play, but it's a bit, I think, is generally a bit simpler to use once you get past all the weird symbols on the dice. Go, Dr. Lambeth.
Oh,
Go,
yep.
Ben. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the system. Yeah, not like I really like the core mechanic of like the momentum and like the D20s, trying to get below a certain number, your focus, all of that I really like. And I think the rest of the system's kind of too over designed. Things like extended tasks, to extend stuff like I don't really know how to do the space combat, and even like regular combat, like feels like there's a bit too much going on there. There's a few too many meta currencies with like determination and threats on top of momentum, which it feels like it maybe is a bit much to track and overloads things a bit. But I do like the core of the system, even if I've like a little, some of the edges I'm not such a big fan on.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I really like the system. I really like the fate aspect of narrative mechanics kind of interweaving. Yeah, to what Ben said, like extended task seems like someone really needed to get the math into the system, and space combat feels a bit orphaned. Yeah, I don't know. It feels a bit like it's almost taking me out of the action sometimes. But generally, I like it. It's a good system. It's a fun system. I especially appreciate that you can pile on things. Okay, we really need to get this. This needs to succeed. What can we throw at this? And everybody kind of get together and participate, and give something to the task or help or support, whatever. I hope succeed.
There was also like something we really noticed recently, especially with Cold Warriors, was like, hey, advantages exist. If we have a trouble, if we're stumped, we can create something so that we're no longer stumped. With the help of GM, of course.
Yeah, that's the fate aspect that we
Yeah.
actually need to way more. And it's even when you play pure Fate, where that's like feels like 90% of the game, it's still, if you're not used to it, it's really difficult.
I would say, like, 'cause at this point I have the unique perspective of, well, not just being the one running this game for the past couple of years, but even before that, I've been pretty much running this non-stop since, 2018, I think, at this point. That was when I first really got into the system. That was when I wound up starting my first games, the ones that of the players here. One of those games I would drop into was where I met Craig, and the other that I started up was where I wound up meeting Panda, and or like at those earliest stages. Felix dropped into Craig's game later, but yeah, it's definitely been a learning process, and there have been some things that a lot of it is very intuitive, like the central 2d20 mechanic is simple enough, and I've gotten used. I at least understand the premise on how to make some things work or how to perform certain tasks, even if I haven't always employed the challenge mechanics to the fullest. There's still some things that can get a little wonky. Space combat, if you are not going in, like, as a GM, fully drilled and ready to manage that, that can be especially difficult. Other things I've found, first I would say Modiphius has improved on a lot of things, such as the modified reputation system that came out with the Klingon source book. We made very good use of that, and the crew has been having their conduct assessed in the break, and I think using it to good advantage. Everybody's pretty happy, I would guess, with what they've got. I suppose some of it at this point, I think that it's more a case of the GM needing to embrace the occasional house rule on the matter. In particular, I know last time, because of how things are going and people are getting stuck, I wound up basically borrowing the scientific method, or using a version of it in Spirit, which is basically, I think, meant to give the GM an opportunity to help the players when they've thrown, like, high concept technobabble nonsense at them or something to that effect, and just say, this is what I actually meant to do. Pull this thread and you're good. That, I think, is something that I will try to use more in the future to help everybody. We have our chief engineer, one Aleska Romanov. So, Brian, the question was, playing the system as long as you have, what do you think of the Modiphius system? Also, feel free to say hi to the audience there.
Hey, how is everybody going? I'm good. Okay, feelings on the Modiphius system. I actually think it's pretty good. I've played multiple systems to do Star Trek, and years and years and years ago, I even did GURPS because our friends and I were so hyped to try to do something Star Trek. Nothing's ever worked as good as Star Trek Adventures. I actually stopped running Star Trek years ago because I just didn't like the system combinations or the amount of overhead. So overall, I think Modiphius is a really good system. Once in a while, it weighs you down. And like you said, occasionally you have to be willing to embrace a house rule. I run a 3-hour game. I have 8 players on Saturday night. I have to abridge rules. Like recently, I did an extended task where it was just one block of an extended task, because with 3 hours, you just can't do, a full extended task, not without putting everybody else on the benches. And you've done a good job, by the way. You've done a really good job with this campaign. One, it's in the past, and it's very niche as Star Trek goes. You've really adapted the Enterprise era very well.
Having played Star Trek Adventures, the Fallout 2D20, and I did a solo adventure on the Dreams and Machines game. The 2D20 system itself is by far one of my favorites. Especially when you get hardcore D&D folks in there who are trying to roll those 20s, and as a GM you're going, yes, give me the 20s, give me them now. Just to have fun with it. But yeah, it's definitely a very, very interesting system, and they adapt the system to the setting quite well. Of course, in Star Trek, you pair the what is it, the trait and the attribute. In Fallout, it's whichever special attribute with the skill to get your target number. In Dreams of Machines, it's a little different because it's toned down a little bit. But it all's pretty much the same way. It's just a matter of figuring out which combination to find your target number. So, all right, diving back into the Aegis. What would you say would be your character's high point for this season? A moment that really stuck out as your character's like very, very good, top of the field moment.
Before we answer that, I think, like to invert the order and note, Felix, you obviously don't have to comment on Horn, but I am interested on what you say for Saral here.
What's the question again? Sorry?
What do you think is your character's high point, or like a favorite character moment, I think is what Joe was saying.
That's a difficult question, because I kind of never found my footing with Soral. I don't know. I have to say I don't know.
Fair enough.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there were lots of scenes and interactions I immensely enjoyed. And I had lots of fun. But what's like the greatest character moment? I don't know really.
I will say beyond obviously the conclusion of the Great Machine, I would say that Saral had, I felt like I remember at least a few very good, like, sort of monologue moments or times where he was frustrated and would go through something. Some of that did come in those later adventures, but I did enjoy that pretty thoroughly. Yeah, we'll keep on going up the number order. So, Brian?
Okay, there's been lots of scenes that I liked. I think the horror in the Halloween episode where we were stuck in the other dimension, and it was sort of the very end, and all we could do was get the probe that we saw at the beginning of the session. I thought that was pretty cool. Roleplay wise, there's one thing that jumps out at me. That was just the scene with the captain, the first officer, and everyone discussing, should we, take weapons from the Andorian ships at the battlefield that we were at, because we were so sick of losing, being outgunned and, outmaneuvered almost at every corner, right? So I thought that was realistic in that the colonel was really like, I'm sick of losing people because I don't have the edge. And it was such a legitimate point. And it went up against this, ideal that Starfleet is trying to instill in itself as an organization. And the role play, the intensity of that whole conversation and Patel's part in it was just super cool. that was like afterwards I talked with the player and we both rated it as one of the best role playing, scenes we were ever in. That's about all I got.
That's good. I'd started talking without realizing I'd muted my mic there. I was just going to say like that whole exchange I will say is even like a really nice understated moment for you too there, Brian, because I remember like as the captain and Shira are beginning to dispute things, Romanov like tries to approach in with like you just naturally came in with that sort of nice compromising tone, and when the captain shoots it down, like the interplay there, it felt like everyone was really gaining traction in their characters, and it was even small things like that really subtly worked pretty well. What about you, Ben? Would you say in these past couple of years you've seen Danny in action? Is there a particular moment you feel that was a favorite one for you?
Not too sure about like an individual moment. Like one of the like adventure stories that I liked a lot was like working in when there was the chemosite poisoning case in the mining planet and trying to solve that and figure out what was going wrong. That was a lot of fun to do. Like I feel like he gets lots of little moments, like interacting with the natives on the planet with the scorpion venom thing, where they had the like paralyzing
I loved
scorpion stuff. That
Lambeth.
was like negotiating that.
I love Lambeth being the pseudo criminal that he was on the criminal asteroid. Being like, yeah, no, my name's Danny. Is it? No, but that's what they call me, Danny. It's kind of
Yeah.
And being all about, you want drugs? I got drugs.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we don't need medicine. No. Do you want drugs? Because that's what they are.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Also, whenever Lambeth would catch on to things and be kind of no nonsense about it, like during the immersion episode, at the moment that I think you were the first one to click that what was going on. It's like, oh, god damn it! It's friggin' Narth here. Okay. Everybody, just like, be careful here. The tech they brought on was pulling some nonsense. Little things like that.
Yeah, I mean, having the the hallucinations thing and having that conversation with the I think the Vulcan investigator from whatever book he'd been reading. I think that was that was fun.
Yeah.
The hallucinations episode was fun. Yeah, a lot of fun moments.
Yeah.
I think that the mining station one probably stands out the most, I think, overall.
Okay, and I have to chime in one other really best scene, which was just really well done by our GM, which was the little girl in engineering who helped us, figure out the strange alien artifact. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I will say I did very much enjoy that part of immersion. But we'll set more questions on that for later. Craig, any thoughts on the topic?
Gosh, well,
favorite Shira moments?
Favorite. I think Shira would have different opinions to me than on what the favorite moment was. Shira would love loves the moment where on Terra Nova, where she's on the surface and she's having to keep a very fragile piece together. and stall and stall and stall until Starfleet arrive with something. That was a fun moment. God, I also quite like the moment with Dr. Lambeth when he'd been wounded and Shira's having to tend to him, and she's just either deliberately or jokingly getting things wrong about human anatomy, just to try and distract the doctor from the pain. Let's see. There's also the scene where she's experiencing that hallucination and seeing all her friends and family dead from a Vulcan attack, and basically is having to watch her boyfriend die in that moment. That was lovely. That's great fun to play. She didn't enjoy that, but I sure did. Oh, and one last moment was shooting the two Andorian officers after someone from Broken Sword decided to pull a whatchamacallit, disadvantage complication on the transporter roll, which made Shira and Dr. Lambeth beam in front of two Imperial Guard troopers, and she had to shoot them down.
Whoops.
That's good. That was good though. Being able to quick draw, shoot one, roll, spend 2 momentum to keep the initiative, shoot the other. Oh, take them both down in 2 shots. Yeah, that's what I built the character for.
It was totally the cat of the yawn. It was not Azek Korg of the yawn who gave that complication. Just say it.
Yes, of course.
Mhm. And what about you there, Panda?
Oh man, I have a lot of favorite scenes from like the entire cast. I have always loved Saral just being the quirky, almost not Vulcan we've had on the ship, with his various ideas and laissez-faire sort of attitude overall of a lot of things. It was fun seeing him just work out various things of getting the job done, or even behind the captain's back of just trying to niggle things here and there. It was great, and I've been loving Horn. Horn's a great background piece of a capable, smart, and dedicated diplomat, quote unquote, for the crew. I'm excited to see what he has for the next coming season. Romanov has always been a good explainer, but the one scene I've really enjoyed was Romanov and Shira trying to dance with the Vulcan dreadnought and trying to play things safe while at the same time internally panicking of who gets a seat. Because neither of them wanted the seat, but you know,
Shira's happy in the seat, but if she appeared in the seat and spoke to the Vulcans,
oh yeah,
Right, it would have been
that's
bad
mess.
news.
There.
It would have been bad news.
and trying not to start a war too.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It was something that was much bigger and deadlier than you were. While still at the same time being available for the away team that you had no word from for like days. It was great. Like I enjoyed seeing you guys do your magic. Ben, I've already said what I enjoyed about Dr. Lambeth. I did enjoy Lambeth talk with Visenya as Visenya tried to put her Orion woos in the direction of him, like kind of feeling out if Lambeth would like fall and allow her to get, to sneak out, and Lambeth just nope. You were straight to what you wanted to do. You were entertaining, but didn't really flirt back. You're just like, meh, I'm here for a job. But I've enjoyed your very directness as Dr. Lambeth. You do your job and you do your job well. And on occasion, if they need a little help, relaxing, you have a few extra drugs that are probably not legal. But nobody needs to know. And Shira, freaking, you had an amazing season, man.
It was good fun.
You just you've had a little, like, Shira's been really pushed the stressful brink as she's watched her empire sort of crumble. Like, Shira has been told that the Andorian Empire was, the cream of the top, and they're getting their asses wrecked slowly. It's a slow death. And while at the same time, the very same people that she wished to protect are telling her that she's a traitor, and don't want her. That's rough, and it's been, as a viewer, it's been amazing to watch her struggle and figure out where she is in the stars.
I have to agree. Greg had been a wild role. Like, I don't know if that's what you intended when you made Shira, but Shira has been like.
I always knew there'd be like some conflict of interest stuff in there, but yeah, this is having that war between Vulcan and Andoria. That's just ramped it up to a whole new level. I mean, even in like when she's in control of the Aegis, you got the Vulcan dreadnought up there. If she gets the Aegis destroyed in that moment by a Vulcan ship, that's tantamount to a declaration of war by Vulcan on Earth, which would then mean Earth would help Andoria out in that war and would save Andorian lives at the expense of many, many humans. But
yeah,
it would have been a thing for an Andorian Imperial Guard officer to do, maybe.
To some degree, yeah. Especially when they're losing. Yeah, you're on the lose. Like, it wasn't a winning side. Like, there wasn't any pride. It was humility and just this sort of thing that certainly an Imperial Guard officer never wants to be a part, experience, right? Especially someone so fresh. So I hope that like, one of the scenes I enjoyed as the captain was the discussion with Shira of, trying to talk her about experiences about the war. And while there is certainly duty, there is the duty abroad, there's also personal duty, and the care of the crew and treating of the crew as a family and as your own body, essentially. And I hope that really carried through with Shira. I feel like it did, but what do you think, Craig?
I think it resonated in her.
Excellent.
I think we'll see stuff in season 2, which will show what our thoughts are.
Yeah. As to Captain's own scenes, I get a lot of scenes, and I get a lot of center stage as captain, so it's hard for me to choose. I'm more than willing to listen to other people what feel like theirs is, because I feel like for me it feels a bit become egotism.
Scenes with your second wife. that conversation where you're now revealed as Mako captain
as a cop. Yeah.
Beautiful. And you didn't divorce on the spot.
Nope. Sadly, with Orion's divorce is death. So no divorce happened yet.
Can
Yeah,
be arranged. Picard died once just to get out of godhood. You know, seems you can do the
Um,
same for divorce.
Ben, Brian, Felix, what do you feel like your what do you feel like the best scenes for the captain were?
There were a lot of good scenes with your character. I mentioned my favorite from the tension and the role play point of view. Trying to think of some other stuff. You've definitely been able to de-escalate some situations really well, and that has benefited the team, so to speak.
I really like, and even though it has said before, the one with the Andorian Vulcan battlefield, where the initial thought was to send us on like a technology scavenge run.
Mhm.
And I kind of like a little bit regret that the captain came to her senses in time. Because I was planning with Soral to actually engage with Shira one-on-one, which we never did, actually, which I also regret.
That
To
was a
kind of
shame.
like mutually agree, neither of us just gets anything. So neither of us takes part in this, as well as doesn't like expose anything from their own people. That would have been fun. But the whole exchange around that, and the also how the captain clashed with Shira in these moments, that was
I will
That's
confess to
some
you,
good fun.
a lot of that was anxiety. was the player having anxiety and being like, shit, this is an opportunity. We have to do this. And then realizing afterwards, shit, nope, can't do that because that's a lot of political issues. And by that point, I've already said it. And as a captain, unfortunately, there's a lot of humdrum of like trying to take back your orders because you don't want to seem like you are insecure or um what's the proper term for calling it?
Indecisive.
Indecisive. Thank you. So I was like, nope, we got to commit through, and then I can recall it later. So yeah. But yeah, that was just the player having anxiety and being like, this opportunity to get upgrades that we sorely need.
yeah. Also, like actually, every chat with your wives, like either one really, I'm not picky, are really kind of fun. Because I never know who's winning in the argument, and I'm not sure you know who's winning in the argument at the moment.
No,
so
they're both incredibly sharp women who are Sharp is really much out of her league when it comes to having such two lovely ladies.
Yeah. Who are also now both on Earth.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna
Next Christmas is gonna be spectacular.
yes, and Horn will just be hovering around.
Oh, I'd say that's a good range of that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start. I've got a few questions that were submitted to me, so we're going to go through some of those. Ben, does Dr. Lambeth have a shady, dodgy past?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, 100 times
Continue.
yes. He has secrets in that shady past that have not yet come out as well. I will say that. Though actually, yeah, no, not much has been revealed about his past in general. other than, well, I guess he's talked about his like time on, I think, Vega, whatever, as like, yeah, as a youth a little bit, but
It's definitely
there's some shady stuff going on there.
it's definitely something that I'd like to bring forward more. And if there's one regret I had, it's that we weren't able to work out as much to really give that some air. Although I think that we've done an okay job with some of the foreshadowing. I think season 2 we can arrange for more payoff on that, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely felt like we haven't gone more into the shady stuff than it needed to in the moment. Like, I think it's like the little hints at backstory stuff and the little details kind of, I think, have suited the scenes and the episodes they're in, and yeah, didn't really need to go that much further, but it would be good to like peel back the onion and yeah, reveal a little bit more at some point.
Next question would be for Brian. Why did you give Romanov a backstory with the weird alien artifacts?
Well, I want to explain why the character might have an affinity for alien technology. Also, when I was creating the character on continuing missions, it popped up, and I went, well, gosh, that's kind of an interesting thing to have an anchor with. And so it created a lot of stuff. It explained what happened to her. Why did she get Section 31 out of her previous assignment? So those are the reasons. I felt it created an engineer with a different angle on things. Scotty's angle was always the Enterprise is the perfect machine and I am devoted to it. Whereas Romanoff is always about learning about new technology. So that's the reason.
I had my mic muted for that so that you don't hear the cosmic wood chipper as I shove the Romanov Section 31 plot character arc through that. I think that it was Section 8 that would have gotten her out.
Oh, sorry, Section 8, Section 31. Yes,
Definitely no Section 31. Definitely
no
not.
Section 31 plots. We all hate Section 31.
Don't
Section
think about
8,
the Borg.
You know.
Yeah.
So it also created an opportunity for a character who had to reconstruct themselves after a life-changing event, and I thought that was kind of cool too. She has a very open mind because of it.
And we've got a few more, but I wanted to throw a little bit of Star Trek trivia in here. In Gene Roddenberry's original treatment for Trek, what was the name of the original starship?
The GM will abstain because he knows this one.
I just heard it recently, and I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, it's that annoying moment where you know you've heard the information before.
I know that Gene Roddenberry.
You know that you know it, but your brain won't act.
Like, I don't know, but is it like another famous, amazing American ship? Like, kind of something with heritage like Enterprise, or is it something very different?
Because the original premise he had with this, or the general theme he had with Star Trek was that it was basically the Oregon Trail in space.
Yeah,
and I feel like it was more Western oriented, maybe.
I don't know why Rosebud has immediately popped into my head as a
Rosebud
potential name for the ship.
Big fan of Citizen Kane.
Oh my God! Such.
Go ahead, Mr. GM. I think
Yeah,
you know
the
it.
well-known Western, Sisters in Kane.
Well, I will say, Ben, you were actually closer to it than you realized, because I believe that the original name for the Enterprise would have been the Yorktown.
Ah.
No.
Oh yeah, you were right. It was the Yorktown. I couldn't remember it.
Yep, that's always a fun trivia to throw on people.
I just did artwork with a Yorktown ship too. So, oh my God, I should have known that. I remember hearing that weeks ago.
This question is for Felix. Why did you switch characters?
That's a fun question, isn't it? Well, first and foremost, entirely my fault. To get this straight out of the way. I had the idea for a character for Soral, and it worked as far as it could. The problem was when I made the character, I didn't give it really a connection to the ship or the crew, which made the relationship overall a bit difficult. And yeah, I just never felt like I really fit in that well. It's the only way I can think of it right now.
I
Or at
hate to
least it
say
didn't quite work for me like the way I thought it would work in the end. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but you were sort of the Neelix of the crew a little bit, and I was
Yeah,
trying my
no.
hard to find ways of
Oh.
connecting you to missions.
Yeah, it's
because
really hard to be like Neelix is very intentionally written into every corner of Voyager. And it's
Yeah.
like this is a part of space no one knows about, but I do. Like why?
Yeah, well, that's how I kind of built you in the initial when I got you, and like I was like, oh, well, you're a long time player. Well, then okay, I'll make you a guide, right? And I kind of put you in that nature, but you're still a pseudo criminal. You had no attention, no attachment to anything. It was hard to find ways of pulling you into things, especially since I already had a science officer. So it was hard.
Yeah, no, and I agree.
I do think it also bears for one little bit of background here. Excuse me. So at the time when you had first approached me, Felix, I think that we were at that time we were running with still a mostly full ship. We were down to five. We were at 5 players at that point, and I was thinking, well, we could we could use coverage at helm or comms or something like that. Definitely, if we had a player come in, and I totally get not wanting to go back to another helm officer, and yeah, just it can be a difficult thing. Then Saral kind of went in a more science and engineering direction than I was. Than I had thought of originally. It's like, well, there's something interesting. We could make this work. And it was actually during that time that it looked like we were going to use drone. It was back during the Terra Populusque Novae episode, and IRL circumstances just became too difficult for drone to be able to manage the game for a time. So I was thinking, well, we happen to now have a science-oriented character. Perhaps it's time to, plot out a graceful exit for Commander Patel and, steadily work this in to where Felix eventually becomes the chief science officer. And,
Yeah.
By the time that we got there, circumstances had changed and we had drone back, which was great. But then we also had, we had effectively doubled up on the types of positions or the types of stories where Saral's story would neatly cover things, at least in terms of his profession, which, to be fair with Star Trek, besides, the fact this is a military/exploratory ship, and, people are known in large part by their labor, by the roles that they have taken, and, that is, even though a mission will send down a bunch of people, it doesn't necessarily need to. Certainly other characters will be present because of what they do. It made things a little more complicated, and I think that, that we found ways and that you guys worked out novel ways to work in the character. I think it worked to an extent. It also helped with an arc that I know Drone was very interested in. It brought this up, I think, to us a couple times before, and I think one of his major character arcs for Commander Patel was steadily getting him used to the duties of command as the executive officer. He obviously started off in a very anxious place, and still obviously, keeps a paper bag handy under the captain's chair when he needs it. But, this pushed him more to, get used to being the bridge officer, and, gave him a little bit of freedom. But, yeah. Obviously, it made... it did limit kind of the directions in which Saral could go, or it would necessarily remove some spotlight, I think. So, I think Horn is in a unique enough place that we won't have that same problem, or not as much.
No. Yeah, when we talked about it, I was very deliberate multiple times. So what's the connection to everyone? What's the point of being there, etc., etc. So to make sure that at least that aspect, not the same mistake again.
I miss Rawl, but I definitely like Horn.
Yeah, me too. That should be fun.
And Saral is
Panda,
out there.
this question is...
Sorry.
Hey, you're good. Panda, how much are you enjoying the captain's chair?
Oh boy. I really enjoy it. I'm definitely somebody who to explain some experience with my role-playing history. I've had a lot of terrible GMs, and I had learned to be as assertive as possible and even panic a little bit about not being useful. And as a captain, I'm useful all the time because I'm in charge. Sad thing is, and I suffer from anxiety personally, and kind of the current thing is, as a captain, I'm in charge, and I deal with everybody. Everybody looks up to me and expects me to figure out the answers. And there's been a few times in these episodes, as I've explained, where I finally realize I'm panicking too much. I take a deep breath and I tell you folks, hey, I got nothing. Figure something out as a player, because as much as I'm a captain, I'm not as suave and experienced as my character is. So let's communal mind this and figure out a best approach.
That is one of the benefits of the system. It does allow a high degree of metagaming to go on.
Yeah. And I think it should. I think overall, as my own personal experience, I feel like role-playing games in generally should, unless you're going more to the PvP angle, which then I feel like you can do that with video game better than anything else. But the captain seat is nice. I get to be a little center figure without, and I can definitely, as leader, I can definitely do a lot of things. But I try my best. It's something I talk with Zach a lot. I frequently, Zach hears my anxieties in between sessions of was that a good decision? How are we thinking about that? Was that mission well? Did I do right? or one of the big ones, especially since I'm center stage a lot, is like I would talk to Zach and be like, okay, I feel like I need to throw more people out there to do more scenes so I can just take the back row. What would be some suggestions, or what can I do to kick Shira or Lambeth or Saral out there? That way they can get a lot more limelight, because as a captain, I'm going to get tons of it just by design. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been really fun, and I'm excited for next season. Zach has shown me, has teased me here and there on what's coming up, and I am excited to face them, and also utterly terrified.
Is it Romulans? I bet it's Romulans.
In fairness, you did pitch the very broad concept of the thing, and I was
for sure.
more than happy to make use of that in a sense, in a way that I think that everyone will enjoy.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah, I gave him a concept, and he's like, I actually like that concept more than my initial idea. And then he just sort of showed me gave me small little tiny little taste tests of being like, is this what you kind of wanted? And I'm all like, yeah. I'm kind of terrified now. He's like, good, and just went back to his work. But yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. It's anxiety driven, and sometimes I've even let Zach know a little bit. Where afterwards, I'm just like, I need to breathe, because I'm I'm panicking a little bit, but it's a good panic, I think. So let me breathe a little bit. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. One thing I would generally say on the captaincy issue and the metagaming bit would be, I think that the system does allow for, or like when you are dealing with a captain, there are a couple different styles of captain that you could come with. Essentially, what some consider the more professorial type, or someone that might go around the room and very slowly and deliberately consider something, and then some people think more of the shoot from the hip type that might give orders rapidly. That some people might unfairly, I would say, characterize Kirk as something like that. But I think really either way that you play a captain, for one thing, like when you approach those critical decision moments, I think a GM can make some allowances for the players to have that discussion in character and make sure that you are covering that ground well enough. On the other hand, I think that regardless of archetype that you choose for your captain, that you can still you can allow for them to have conversation in a different way, and or in different ways to kind of glance at the problem and still execute this in the context of the scene that you're doing. So that's I don't think either type precludes you from seeking out opinions. So that's my bit there.
This one's for Craig. If your character became an evil overlord, what would your villainous plan be?
Evil overlord. Huh?
What do you mean became?
Well, first we'd have to trick the crew of the Aegis into assisting me, of course. So yeah, have some false allies there, and then we'd have to, I think perhaps make them think that some insidious thing had taken over the Andorian Empire, and the only way to defeat it was to remove the government, and then I would show myself to be a hero amongst the people of Andoria, and they would elect me president or chancellor, whatever the position is there. And over time, I would centralize more power within myself and then get myself anointed as the Andorian Empress and then go and destroy Vulcan.
Every single guardsman is now an enemy of the Empire, including Commander Shran.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. That would be fun.
You at some
Right.
point sit there and mention that you love democracy?
Of course I love democracy.
All right, this one will be for all of you, so we'll go down the line, starting with Panda. What creature from all of Star Trek would you love to keep as an unconventional pet on board your ship?
Hmm. Well, I've already denied tribbles, and I don't want a tribble on my ship.
We can get
Nope.
tribbles. Get
No.
tribbles. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Rebels.
Yes.
Rebels.
In the Star Trek universe, that's hard because due to special effects limitations, they usually don't show animals or pets all that often. If it was out of universe, I'd get a Varen from Mass Effect. Freaking lizard doggos.
Fair enough. Craig, what about you?
Shit, Shira already has a pet. A Yuggy, which is I think I described it as a cross between a cat and a hamster or something. And it's
Campster? You're saying you have a campster in your room?
something like a campster. Not in my room, no, because pets aren't allowed. But that will change one day.
No, they won't.
It will. And that's back on Andoria, and it's adorable. As for me, pet Tribble would be great, but the Tribble would have to be neutered.
Archer
Remember-
had a
Remember,
Archer-
people, neuter your Tribbles.
Ben, you're up.
Oh, sorry. What was the question again?
What creature would you want to keep as a pet in on your ship?
The character or me personally?
Character.
Character. Yeah, I don't know. Dr. Lambeth isn't really a. Yeah, I don't know if he's a pet kind of guy. My immediate instinct is to say some sort of weird alien creature that, like, produces some sort of useful venom or something like that he can just sort of harvest every so often, where taking care of it is kind of it's something that's useful because it helps him in his job.
I should have given you a miniature giant
It's
scorpion.
like, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe the kind of person, yeah, like miniature giant scorpion, like the kind of person to have a little, like maybe a little tank with creatures in, like a lizard or a reptile or something like that, rather than like having a dog or a cat that runs around. Just somewhere where you can like leave it in a box somewhere and feed it every so often, and yeah, rather than having to constantly pay attention to where it is at all times. So like a lizard, probably, I'll say.
Brian?
Gosh, there would be two potential pets for Romanoff. One she knows nothing of, but would require an extensive network of milk distribution throughout the ship to prevent mass casualties. That's
God.
it would be damn cute to have around, but if it's not fed, it would create a super problem on the ship. And as far as I can tell, that thing can attack and drain its targets in the same round. So that'd be a moopsie. Then the other pet, Romanoff, would know about, and she'd be very tempted by, because she was like saved by a Vulcan edge runner. She's a little bit of a, like somebody who's very interested in another culture. In essence, that's Romanov. She's in, she doesn't think, Vulcan culture is perfect, but Vulcan culture saved her ass in her darkest moments on multiple occasions. So she'd have a slot, but they're a lot of care and they're really big and they eat lots of meat. So once again, you're back to, oh yeah, it could live in your cabin. Yeah. So it's a lot.
Felix.
Well, an answer for Soral because Horn probably not an interesting answer. But Soral would definitely want a Horta, the silicon creatures from the original series, if anyone remembers them.
Yeah.
Because just a life form based on silicon just sounds so interesting.
Yeah, I guess it, and you could converse with it if you have spare bits of hull plating and a lot of time.
Yeah. And I mean, I can mind meld, so, limitless fun for the whole family.
I find the lack of Klingon targ disturbing among this crew.
Who let the targs out? Ooh.
To be
ooh,
fair,
ooh.
the Aegis is built like a submarine, so like
That's right.
huge, like large creatures will have a tough time for crew members on top of that.
That's true.
Again, the excellent argument for a moopsie. It's really not that
No.
big. It's cute as
No.
hell. And all you need is milk distributors all throughout the ship, and it would be safe and fine, and people could cuddle with it as long as it's not hungry.
Until one milk distributor has like a problem, and suddenly you lose a third of the crew.
There's never any technical problems on a starship, please.
Stairs
This question will be
2.
for Ben, or Ben's character. All these are for your characters. If you were suddenly in the news tomorrow, what do you think the story would be about?
I think it's either, like, for Dr. Lambeth, it's either like sort of big out of nowhere, like, oh wow, look at amazing thing this person's done, or it's like, it might be like, oh wow, here's the doctor who's just discovered the cure for cancer, or whatever kind of thing. It's that, or like triple homicide, like perpetrator on the run sort of thing, like something that's just like, it's either something that's just completely discrediting him, or like incredible rags to riches kind of story, and there's no in between. Yeah, because it's things are either going to go very right for him or very wrong, I think.
This one will be for Panda. If you could change one thing about the ship or life on board the ship, what would, with the snap of a finger, what would it be?
I see the monkey paw. Very careful.
You've got a Q power, a one-off Q power to change anything on board the ship.
I see you, Zach, just kind of like waiting with like a small smile, just waiting for me to suggest something so you can monkey paw it.
As I said, you see the monkey paw.
Yeah.
It's twitching.
It's like, go ahead, choose.
That's a
Choose
tough
your
choice.
pain.
In all honesty, just for the more roleplay potential, probably holodecks or something equivalent.
Repeat that, please.
Holodecks.
Oh, holodecks.
Just because it had a lot more variety and a lot more scenarios or things we could as scenes we can cook up or
We
people
could
could
have
enjoy.
all those pets that we normally couldn't have on the Aegis. You could have a holodeck full of moopsies and they'd all be safe. Really.
Yes,
Oh.
and then realize how I'll never enter the holodeck ever again.
Yes, once the safety protocols fail.
Yeah.
Make moopsies. Take safety protocols offline.
I
Fun
mean,
for everybody.
we could be the reason why there are safety protocols.
That's true. If you do that, everybody who goes on the holodeck has to wear a T-shirt that says "Walking Milkshake."
But no,
Oh.
No.
holodecks or just wider space. So you can walk casually in the ship. It is definitely tight in that in the hallways and whatnot. Having a bit more room would be nice.
But if you like to climb, it's a wonderful place with all the extra Jeffries too.
Or actually, I can change anything on the ship. A faster warp speed.
Oh, yeah.
So that way we could have that way we can have a possibility of doing something exploratory or have something back at home. Easy.
Or a spinal mount. That would change a lot of negotiations, right? Oh, do you want to negotiate with us? Sure, we have a spinal mount.
But yeah. So warp drive or a holodeck, honestly.
Well, to be fair, we've already done immersion, so the holodeck episode, I think, is clear.
Good.
Meantime, you want to go fast? We can make you go fast. Not promising it's in the direction you want to go.
Who's ready to be turned into a salamander?
Hey.
I mean, there will be a Star Trek vessel in the future that's just hurled space with a snap of a finger, and nothing bad ever came of it.
So that kind of brings up another nice little segue into a question. This will be for everybody as the player, not the player character. If you found yourself on board the Enterprise D, and for those of you listening, that's the fat one. Where would you spend most of your free time? Would it be on the holodeck or would it be 10 forward? Let's start with Felix.
Holodeck. That's not even the question. As cool as 10 forward is, and is that already with Guinan? D?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
fine
right.
on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might mean Guinan must be absolutely fascinating to talk to, but the holodeck is literally limitless potential. Like from exploring to living books, not even just reading them. It's just the holodeck.
I'd also go with the holodeck. 10 forward is nice and all, but people are still people, and I don't like people. So fake people work just as well. And not to mention, I would love to experiment of how many levels of reality I can go into regarding the holodeck. Could I make a holodeck within a holodeck within a holodeck within a holodeck within a holodeck and see
And that's how the security protocols break. Now we know.
And see at what point does the memory capacity on a holiday on a starship start slowing down a little bit.
Brian?
I would be Commander Troy's assistant in counseling. But I would be that counselor who just, counselor's assistant who has a tendency to blurt out the most maybe either inappropriate or insensitive comments about situations, right? Just because it'd be really interesting to see how the characters react to it. Sure, Jean-Luc, you're here for your anti-Borg conversations, right? Yeah. Do you have any ghost feelings about those Borg implants? It's not in the questionnaire, but I'll ask it anyway. I think it would be interesting to be in the counseling office to hear the dimensions of the characters in Star Trek. Counselor Troy would probably fire me within a week.
And then
Greg, what about you?
It's probably going to be the holodeck. I generally don't like bars. I don't drink much in the way of alcohol, or I guess synthahol in this case. So yeah, it'd probably be the holodeck and just doing whatever variant on whatever sequel of Baldur's Gate or Skyrim has survived World War III.
Just Skyrim.
Just Skyrim. No, Baldur's Gate didn't get through the eugenics wars, I guess.
And it's not even a sequel to Skyrim, it's just Skyrim.
Let's see, does that leave Ben for
No.
our final one?
Yeah.
Or the GM?
Yeah. So the question was about what role we'd take on in a Star Trek ship.
No, where
no.
would you spend your free time if you were on the Enterprise D? 10 forward or
Right.
the holodeck?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, the holodeck's interesting, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of don't have yeah, I guess it's probably the holodeck. Like, but I imagine not a particularly yeah, I don't know, I guess it's 10 forward actually. Like the holodeck, what would I do in there? I guess there's lots of like exciting adventures I can go on or whatever, but I can get a lot of the fun out of that from just playing a video game. Like I don't actually have to be running around in a room to feel like I'm doing something interesting. So like they're having actual human people around you instead of simulations of people is probably the better thing to go for. Even if I'm not that social as a person generally. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm gonna be sitting looking at my phone, I might as well be doing it in a room full of people instead of a holodeck. Yeah, so 10 forward, I guess.
And I do think, like going into, I'm sure you are inevitably going to ask me there, but I think that a point builds off of that is a bit of the company you keep. Like if I'm in 10 forward alone with, like, or rather with it's with a standard bunch of people, lower deckers and whatnot, who might all be busy with their own things, and if I'm not going to have incisive conversation, that would lose some of its draw, with one exception. The view of like the actual experience of realizing you are out in space and that you can walk up to that transparent aluminum window and stare out and like have a view that no one from your native space-time is going to have. or like realizing you are farther out in the galaxy than anyone from this time in our like from our perspective would be. And if you are the if whatever contrivances rendered you there is like strange and noteworthy to where you are yourself without like having existed in this universe prior, then chances are you're going to have some interesting attention. You might have, at the very least, an anthropology expert peppering you with questions about what it was like to endure those years before the Third World War and all of that, which would be rough. But you might also get, at that point, you're pretty much the center of the plot there, or at least a B story, like the neutral zone, basically. So you might have Troy or Data alongside. You might have somebody kind of guiding you through, and then that'll all be welcome. Honestly, if I had that time, then like the holodeck would be neat for like a recounting of some points in history, such as I'd be able to see it, but I could read endlessly in there, or like in 10 forward as well. So
the geek in me kind of like I would love to play like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing on board the Enterprise, but like with the option of going to play like actual D&D LARP style in the holodeck versus like sitting down with the GM screen and with your bunch of buddies like when they play poker. That'd be a hard one to try to figure out what would be the better option.
I mean, you could always
But
go into the
Lower Deck shows them playing D&D tabletops, so there's certainly an appeal about the
You could always play tabletop in the holodeck, as in manifest a holodeck and then have your selection of historical figures. You could play D&D with Stephen Hawking, Sir Isaac Newton, and Albert Einstein.
But could I have the GM in the Great Barrier as my GM?
Well, that depends on.
You could have a simulation of him.
I'd have a simulation of him. That's a given.
Or you could hijack the Enterprise D and come visit me in the Great Barrier.
Done. They'd be very
First
mad.
But why doesn't
First
Jim
we
need a
have to get
spaceship?
I'd get fired from my job as Counselor Troy's insensitive assistant.
There's a question. We'll have to figure out a way to make the GM Star Trek canon. I'll just call up Jonathan Frakes and see if we can get him into an episode. Well, this one will be for everybody going down the line. Who, like, 2 actors, alive or dead, from Star Trek that you would like to sit down and either play a game, have a cup of coffee with, have dinner with, whatever. But just two actors or actresses that you just like to meet and chill with. Let's start with Panda.
Oh boy. Jerry Ryan and it's either Brett Spiner or Jonathan Frakes. Because both are great company, it seems like. And Jerry Ryan just seems very, very chill overall. She's an absolute geek and just enjoys, her place in the Star Trek universe, as it were. Despite all the shit that she had to deal with. Yeah, I think around it. Jonathan Frakes or Brent Spiner or Jerry Ryan.
Craig.
Yeah, I would probably bring in a couple from nearer Aegis's time and go with Connor Trenier and Dominic Keating.
Guest spot on the Shuttle Pod show.
Yeah, have them playing Malcolm and Trip again. That'd be nice.
Let's see, Ben.
Well, and like, was it Alive or Dead? You said. Was
Yeah,
that part of it? Or...
alive or dead. Yep.
Yeah, then I think it's Leonard Nimoy, right? As option 1, and I'm still trying to figure out option 2. As like, or number 2, because I don't know who'd like make a really good pair like with him. Yeah, I'm not really sure. A second.
Maybe DeForest Caddy.
That's the other problem, is that I don't know the actors' names too much. I'm gonna have to bring up Wikipedia and like get all the actors. Oh yeah, McCoy. Yeah. Like I haven't actually watched. That's the thing, is I haven't watched too much of the original. Oh, okay. Here would be the funny option to go for. Would be I cannot remember his name, but the guy who plays the Riddler in the 60s Batman series, because he's in one episode of Star Trek.
Like Frank Gorman, I think.
But he's one of the black and white guy from the very obvious racism allegory episode. Let this be your last battlefield, or whatever. But I don't know if that the actor's nice, but that's immediately who I think of thinking of, like original series people who've appeared in other things that I'm also a fan of.
Frank Gorshin, that's who it was.
Yes.
Brian.
Okay. As much as I love the classic actors, and I have a lot of questions for them, my interview would be with Renee. What is it? Dubrow, the guy who played the Changeling on Deep Space Nine, Odo, and Avery Brooks. Those would be my two interviewees. Renee, because he had a really challenging role playing a changeling. I'd really love to hear how he conceptually, because he did a very good job with that role and had a lot of conflicts. And then I'd like to hear from Avery Brooks as sort of the first African American captain, because I know that Avery Brooks had all these issues with the production, what has been the least vocal about any kind of restarting of the storyline. I would very much like to hear about how much input did he have over Cisco's plot lines. Because there was some really interesting crap. Certainly some award-winning episodes from Deep Space Nine. Those would be my guys.
Felix.
Oh, like a lot of really really cool people I'd love to chat to, but I have to go with my, like, instant knee jerk when you said when you asked us the question, which is Patrick Stewart and John Delancey. Just I don't know. I don't know why, but both of these people and these roles have so much charisma that they brought to the show that it's just like I would love to chat to them.
Mr. GM, how about you?
It is a very tough one, and I think that a lot of people have drawn on like very interesting options, various combinations I'm tempted by. Certainly, a chance to meet and to chat with Leonard Nimoy about all the different work his experience and things would go. That would have been interesting. With either a DeForest Kelly pairing or reunite him and John DeLance from the. They had this audio thing that was meant to be a debate between Spock and Q about saving humanity from an incoming asteroid, and it was very entertaining to listen to. So that sort of thing. It's very hard to pick. I can say that like if this were a one-on-one thing, I might like really want to talk to like I would like to meet Leonard Nimoy because that'd be interesting. And you know, the more I think about it, if I were doing these one-on-one, I would kind of like to have a moment with, like a thing with Scott Bakula, in part because Dominic Keating and Connor Trenier have been doing the Shuttlepod show, as alluded to in the answer with that Craig made, and yeah, one of the things they constantly mention as they've been going through the interviews would be how like Bakula in particular was like just one of the most gracious performers, one of the best like working man sort of things, and like just all around a like solid like individual to have around, like the most sort of game as far as any actor, and like a vital pillar in that family. And I like, you know, for whatever you want to say about how Enterprise was written and the situations that Arch was put in and decisions that he made that maybe weren't always the smartest, Bakula was always like, he did what they needed him to do every time. And I'd be interested in that insight. At the risk of going on just that slight bit longer, if I were to delve into the behind-the-scenes sort of thing, I wouldn't mind hanging out with Ronald D. Moore just a bit, and like, the insights I would love to get from him, projects in the past, and then perhaps just slightly more negatively, Brian Fuller, just to stare at him and say, why? Just why?
I need to get rid of this guy who follows me around and just says why.
Actually, I'm realizing I need to change my second answer because I've on an unrelated note, but looking at the at people who've appeared, remembered someone who's appeared in a single episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, Mae Jemison, who's an astronaut.
Yeah.
The first black woman in space. So that would be an interesting person to talk to, as you know, combined with Leonard Nimoy as a thing. Basically, I'm trying to like get around the restrictions on people who've only appeared in Star Trek.
At least nobody brought up The Rock. All right. We're at the about 2.5 hour mark roughly. What questions do our players have for our GM about the upcoming season?
How fucked are we?
Oh.
You even need to ask that?
You know, I'll say that
Self-revelatory.
For some of this, you have made your own bed, or at least in some very important ways, at least one character has made your bed, and you're going to have to lie in it. But I think that I think season 2 is going to have a very very fun vibe to it. I will say very broadly, like, last season was very heavy in the like, it was very heavy in the local galactic politics, the whole interplay of messy things there, particularly as it went off the rails. We are getting away from some of that necessarily, with the distance that will be involved. I have a few more character-centered stories that'll come up, of course. But when season 2 rolls around, you will still feel some repercussions of pretty much everything that happened last season in one way or another. One-shots included, I should say. I think
Mr. GM, do you have a kind of a direction or a highlight as far as where you're going to start off, at least for the next season?
Well,
that you wish to share. I should put that caveat in there. I don't want to pressure you too much, but I think it's nice to have a preview.
I suppose if I were to give us all just a little look at where we're going, or perhaps where we start off, I can give you guys a little bit of a teaser, and I can say too that let me see here. I can say that for some of this, I do owe a bit of credit going out to the crediting where credit is due, the folks over at the let's see, I just want to make sure that I give them the proper acknowledgement here. Sorry, just going back through. Oh, I would say that the for those of you that are Stellaris players and happen to like the intersection of Star Trek and the other, and Stellaris, the Renegades modding group and the New Civilizations team in particular were very helpful in terms of helping me represent what is to come here. And when we get back, I think that we are going to start just a little more earthbound, shall we say. And let's get that zoom out just a little bit more.
I'm away from keyboard. I'll be right back.
Ooh.
Certainly.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Is that a Lucra Hulk separatist battleship in the background?
That is not a Lucra Hulk.
No, okay.
It is just that's no starship. That's a space station.
It's Amazon. It's future Amazon.
They kinetically bombard your packages to your home.
They come wrapped in a tungsten rod.
Let's see, but the angle is off on that. Let me just fix that a little more. So yeah, we are starting off this next session here. When we do start the next session, we are back to Earth. And very particularly in a place that well, last time we saw it, it looked a little different. I did change things about a little bit just to better reflect the better reflect the era, essentially. But we are going back to we are going to start back there, and yeah, I think that it's going to be a good venture. So I realize the magnification on this needs to apparently still be modified a little bit. I've been working on some of the streaming kinks between seasons, but yeah. Granted, we won't be staying in Earth or even the local space for that long.
Will there be a beach episode?
You know, Craig. You know what?
Am I going to see a monkey's paw?
At some point, I will put this in Roll20 properly, but yes, a monkey's paw is curling inward.
Yay!
Can we get a monkey's paw emote?
I really should commission one or find one at some point.
I think that would be actually really appropriate.
Yes.
It's very multi-purpose.
Yep. No, I can definitely say we're going further afield, and that there'll be some good character. I'm planning some interesting character stories. I also have in mind a few other ties back to different Trek in different ways, and back to, of course, the earlier adventures.
Oh, very cool. I don't know how long you wanted to keep going with this.
Well, chat has not been so forthcoming with questions as of late, so
yeah, I noticed that too. So
yeah. We did get at least a fair few that came in earlier, and I know that there's vaguely a couple other things that like the well, there are at least a couple questions that could still be talked about here, or like stuff from the list I sent along to you. Otherwise, I don't want to hold people too long, of course. So.
well, we'll just keep chatting. Let's see.
Well, I got a question for my fellow players.
There you go.
What do you hope to get from the second season?
Enjoyment? You mean like what in terms of story resolutions?
No, story resolutions. Anything in particular you'd like to happen, or to your character, or things to explore?
I'm hoping for a little more exploration and just a little more self-contained here and there with some I'm not going full TOS of or TOS or Voyager where anything happened before doesn't matter the next episode, but certainly some exploration missions, some interactions, some interesting zany Star Trek sort of situations. Who knows? We might end up in a Western world, or a world where they're all literally wear hats. I don't know.
A world of cute creatures that like calcium. The home world of the Moopsies.
A terrifying prospect. Of course, with exploration, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. You just land on the shuttle, and suddenly the pilot has had his bones drunk.
No, we're not having moopsies, you guys. I will freaking. They'll be
Moopsie-
spaced.
the
They'll be
Moopsie
spaced.
episode.
They'll be spaced. Nuke it from orbit. We have one nuke. I'll use it. No. I don't know. Oh, what would you like to see, Felix?
I would like to see more how do I put this? Small scale developments.
Yeah.
Like not if we could do something that's not of galactic importance for 5 minutes. No, I would very much like to see some good old monster of the week episodes. Just like some cool shit happens and next week we do something else. Kinda.
The Moopsie Homeworld episode does meet that requirement.
God damn it.
I'm just saying.
How panicked would you be if a Moopsie did show up on your ship?
Oh, extremely panicked. Yeah, that's those little buggers are small. They'll get into all the panels and stuff, and you just open up your panel to do a bit of maintenance work, and suddenly the crewman has all his bones drunk, and yeah.
Aye, they're in the machinery, all right.
Blood for the blood god.
Bones for the Moopsie throne.
Are there any particular aliens you'd like to face? Whether they're in your era of Star Trek, or a cube type thing happens where you get to face off against a particular enemy.
Not Romulan. Stairs outside.
Stuff like maybe a First Contact episode with one of the future Federation members, like the Bolians, would be interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
First Contact.
I like to meet Gazinti again, just because I'm a fan of that kind of enemy.
Oh, I'd love to throw another ship at the Kazinti.
Maybe some cameo or funness with Klingons. We haven't had Klingons in this season. Tholians would be kind of cool because they're always that alien. What?
A barbecue with Tholians. You just
I
need
don't
to go
know.
visit.
Tholians are so alien that they feel kind of they aren't fun anymore.
But they're pretty and gemmy and stuff.
Strange New World has done stuff repeatedly with Gorn, so Gorn are no longer kind of interesting as they used to be.
Okay, I blanked out for a moment and I heard we need an adventure with Klingons, Tholians, and Gorn. Gotcha. All done.
I mean, that's how the best jokes start. Tholian, Gorn.
Add a Moopsie to that one and you've got a winner.
No.
I'm just going to say that when that adventure happens, you guys are going to be just mad that I did it.
Yes. Yes, I would be.
We're always mad.
Yeah, that if that adventure happens, it will be the sign that we have all gone insane.
trying to think of any other alien races I really want to see. I definitely think founding Federation members, first contact with them would be pretty cool.
I mean, not founding ones. We're already in
I mean,
Sure.
somebody had to go
The
out there
founders?
contact
and
with
make.
them.
I meant be like the
Yeah,
first ones
no,
beyond.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the ones beyond the like just beyond the founding,
Yeah.
the big players. That wasn't just the founding members.
So what, you wanted Denobulin then?
I mean, going to Nobla would kind of be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like stuff like the Bolians or whatever, where it's ones that show up in the later series,
Yeah, Booleans, Betazoids, Trill.
in like TOS or the Next Generation, where
Trill would be
their
cool.
origins aren't established. And
Trill
also,
would be pretty cool.
But Trill are mostly cool when you know what's up with them. Otherwise, they're just like weird humanoids with spots.
Once you know that they got a slug inside, it gets real interesting.
Yeah,
Since we're an
they
since we're an
keep that
altered
under wrap.
since we're an altered timeline, the Bajorans and Cardassians and seeing what they're like would be kind of cool.
I mean, circling back to question to
yeah,
the,
I mean,
to the, to
when
the
was
DM,
first contact with the Cardassians? 'Cause
It's
In the
implied that
Lost
it
Years,
was
I do
sometime
believe.
in the Lost era. The Federation is aware of the Cardassians, but really wants to stay away from them because the last thing they want in the Lost era is another Cold War.
yeah,
Because they've got the Klingons. Okay, there's Khitomer, but there's the Romulans, and the Romulan Cold War is probably one of those elements of the Lost
I would
era.
actually...
The first Bajoran Republic is right now, isn't it? Or this time period, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've already achieved space flight, and sometime in about 50 to 100 years, they make contact with the Cardassians.
I think the Cardassians are also in a Republic phase, so they would... I would see that... I think contact would be plausible for much earlier in the timeline. When
Yeah,
it comes
probably.
To that, but the difference would be that, they are just so far away from what even becomes the Federation's concerns that, there isn't really a need to establish, major relations. Or it's not until the Federation expands much more.
we're missing someone very important. Ferengi.
They're out there.
They could
Yeah,
sell us
okay.
movies. No. I'm sorry.
We've got these.
I
cute
didn't want to
kids.
take part in this.
They only drink milk.
Oh, dear. Well,
I don't want to deal with the Borg. I don't want to deal with it. We'll deal with the Dominion. Which at this point is at the power level of TNG Federation.
What about
Possibly.
the Hydrans? They're all gas-based and stuff.
they're on the other end of the Klingon Empire, and I'm not putting you out there.
Yeah. I've already talked about Zach, and it was like the Hydrans and Lyrans are on the sheer other side, and they're relatively a myth.
Yeah. No trips to the Klingon Eastern Marches or the out into Shackleton.
What else do we have? Cations?
That would freaking terrify the crew. After meeting Kazinti, and we meet peaceful Kazinti, it'd be like, what the fuck?
Edosians? Was it Edosians? No.
I mean, those are the three.
We don't
limbs,
have a
six
good
limbs.
enough rating for Illyrians. This is not a NC-17 or 18 plus game.
Can we get a new ship?
What? We could. Let's steal one. I see a few ships there. Let's steal one.
We just take the nameplate Aegis and put it on another ship. No one will notice.
all of your ship, any other ship you would pick would be slower.
Just
And
by
I mean, but-
universal constant.
First
Isn't the-
contact with Riser would be nice.
Enterprise already
Yeah.
beat you to do it by
yeah,
2
Rise
years.
Up cool.
Second contact with Riser would be nice.
Any contact with Riser would be nice.
Does that
Third
count as sloppy
contact.
seconds when it's Riser?
Oh god.
Sounds like
Oh,
Sloppy fourth.
I think that this was we've gone too far and too long, and
Have you truly gone too far?
We've gone too far into the
Wait.
rise and dream.
where no one has gone before, or no one should.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing a Rysian captain in a previous Star Trek game. It was like a fun thing to go for as like an basically playing an asexual
That's awesome.
Rysian as a like fun thing to do. Yeah.
Well,
But anyway, sorry. That's the thing I think about whenever I think about Riser.
oh no, it is interesting. I can only promise you that you'll deal with some of those species, some of those powers, getting a look at some of that with a little slightly smaller stakes at times, or at least nothing that's like as large scale as what we dealt with the last time. And also no shortage of Crichton.
Well, we gotta have Crichton.
Yeah.
And Crichton has got to have that frog.
Oh no.
Hello, my darling.
I think it'd be hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime girl.
You
Still,
just rig his screen so that, like, every 30 minutes or so, it briefly flashes up the frog for like 1.5 seconds and it goes away again.
Yep.
So he's not sure if he's actually seen it or not.
I personally, this is going back to focusing on the question initially. I would like to see actually Shira's boyfriend.
Shira would
One
like
person.
to see Shira's boyfriend.
Shira will definitely get to see Shira's boyfriend.
Hey.
I will say, like, as a GM, I would like to see about delivering some of those moments again. Like, there are a couple dynamics, there are a couple really great things about this, like, this first season and, like, the campaigns in general. I have loved to see, like, moments between all of you guys role-playing and, you know, all the fun bits, but I have really liked it when I've been able to execute a good moment. And some of those really best come through in the endings, so, like, with the you know, on the lighter end, I really enjoyed Immersion, and particularly ending off with the Michigan P frog on the view screen, just for, you know, for kicks and giggles. But I think that one of my favorite moments still remains the end of the escalation arc, or in the last episode of Let Your Woes Be Your Deadliest Weapons, which you'll see more so in the YouTube archive, because I made a very deliberate session to cut off my usual, like, thank yous and goodbyes and all that. I just had it play with, like, everyone is, like, hanging out after a successful mission, but then an alert is called, the bridge is frantic, everybody's up on the bridge, and then it is an audio message that has come out from Starfleet Command announcing that Andor and Vulcan have gone to war, or Andoria and Vulcan have gone to war, and just the abrupt cutoff there is, like, perfection. So I hope that I can give, like, you the players and you the audience another moment like that.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. But, yeah, unless there's anything else, Joe, I think that exhausts my array of questions.
Yeah, that was all that I had. So, aside from the massive amounts of Star Trek trivia I found.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose in that case, shall we close it out here for today's game then, or the Q&A?
Sounds good. Next weekend we're game live for session 1, right?
I am still working that out. So what I will say here, I guess one other bit at the end. Obviously, I wanted us to come back sooner for this, and the big thing of late has been that I had, over the holidays, dealt with a very bad case of COVID, and after that, I kind of dealt with after effects or aftershocks, like secondary illnesses that came from it, and it has just completely thrown me out of whack, or like completely neutered productivity for a time. So like I got quite a bit done earlier in the break, but it did set me back such to where we needed to postpone this. So I am getting some last ducks in a row. It might be such that we take next weekend off as well, and plot to start season 2 on the 3rd of February.
Okay.
I will just say for my players here, I will keep you up to date in the Discord. For everyone else that is watching and following this, we will keep posts wherever you are watching. So if it's in the archive, it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on all the social media. It'll definitely be out in the Discord and all the places that you can check. But we'll hammer that out, and we'll try to figure something out here that so that we can get this campaign going again. I will say that we are at the very least coming back for a session next week of Broken Sword. We are resuming their second season. Contrary to what it's saying on Twitch right now, we are actually going to be running at a trial period. We're going to be running a trial period on a different time, specifically Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. So I'm going to have to change that in stream elements, but we'll see how all that works. So yeah, just stay tuned, I suppose.
Well, this has been fun. Thank you for letting me be part of your stream here and ask questions. And I hope it wasn't too daunting for our answers. It was quite enlightening from a questioner standpoint. So
yes. Actually, I do have one more question that came to me here, and it got messaged to me directly, and I'll for reasons, and I will say for anybody that has come to this and is watching it out of order, it's like asking, wondering, how do I get into this thing, or like where do I start? There, I would say, are a couple experiences you could choose to adopt. If you are coming to the Aegis campaign and watching it for the first time, if you want the complete and, I dare say, very unabridged experience, then go from the Fallen Star premiere. It's a pilot. It's a little weird. It is definitely like one of the longest adventures, and the cast does flip a bit, but it does go a bit towards setting up the era. If you wanted to bypass the pilot and still have a good sense of the plot, I would start from episode 2, The Groundskeeper, because that's still like everything is largely in place, and you can still appreciate everything that happens with what is more or less the regular cast from then on. If you're looking at just the fun standalone adventures, then Immersion, The Groundskeeper, and Boom and Bust are all very good, or like all things I'd recommend. Also, the Be Still, Thy Gentle Shade 2-parter, that is like as an attempt to do a found footage horror type thing. It's one of my prouder moments, I think. If you want to dive in right where sort of the action really picks up, start from escalation, and yeah, just watch everything go crazy and disintegrate very fast. So, but either way, I think it's a worthwhile thing. I have enjoyed GMing these players, and like I'm tremendously thankful for all of them being here for this, and for our interviewer here's like helping us relive some of it.
Definitely, anytime.
Well, I guess with that, yeah, I suppose that unless anybody has other parting thoughts they would want to say, I think that we should probably cut off here and get things going. Any other parting thoughts before we end the session? Nope.
I got nothing.
Seeing none, I think then this is where we will leave off. So for those of you watching in the archive, we will catch you later, and we'll keep you up to date. But until then, you folks have a good rest of your day.